Thought we had the camera rolling the other day, and it wasn't. This camera gives no feedback when you press the record button, and I swear I saw the red light come up on the back, but it didn't. So we missed a little footage, but that's alright. We've disassembled the phono mechanism, cleaned it up, lubricated it, put a new rubber tire on there, and that part's ready to rock and roll. We're not going to go full boat on this and paint everything again. It's just we're trying to save the thing is all we're doing. I'll have to redo these wires. The insulation's all split. We'll fix that and make it safe. I doubt anybody's going to use the phonograph anyway. This cabinet had split here and come unglued, and I used my syringes. I injected some glue down in there and we clamped it together. One of the back corners was a little bit loose, so we tightened that all up. So everything on this portion is solid at this point. So now I guess I'll get to work on the top. Let me get these clamps out of here, and we'll pick it up. Well, I guess it was continuously recording while I walked over there. Thought I'd press the button to stop it. We have to remake the dial lens here, whatever you want to call it. That's just a scratch there. It's got a big ugly skid mark in it here. It didn't clean up too badly. If it wasn't for that, I don't know what happened. That's inside. How that got damaged in there like that, I don't know. But I took the laser and I made a mold so I can vacuum form a new one and use the laser to make some vacuum channels in here. This will get stuck down on a piece of glass. We'll have a vacuum hose that goes in here. There's a couple of vacuum pumps sitting up there on the back shelf. This will get dropped in here and we'll heat this with a couple of heat guns. Normally the ones I do are square, but I think I'm going to have to use 2 heat guns. I was watching Big Clive this morning, and he just took apart a air fryer, and while he was taking it apart, he said this heating element would be good for vacuum forming. It's a good size heating element. If you mounted the heating element over this board, it would probably make things fairly easy. I actually had my eye open for a used electric range, something old in one of these second-hand places that I could pick up and use it for, just throw this thing in the oven and let it sit with the vacuum running for a while. Someday maybe we'll get that, but what I normally do, I've got one here. There's another one, and I've got inserts that go in there for vacuum forming different dial pieces, and I just put capped on tape here to seal off the vacuum, put the vacuum line in here and heat the plastic with a heat gun until it pulls down inside. You absolutely have to have the glass spotless or it leaves big dimples in the piece that you vacuum form. But I've got a brand new one of those pieces of glass up there, still in the box. I haven't even taken it out of the box. Let's see if I can get it in. Yeah, oops, right there. There's a box with one of those glass cutting boards in it. They're not expensive, and they give me a fresh piece of glass with no scratches to use. I don't know if I'll try to do that on camera or not. It's a slow process. You just sit here with the heat guns with the vacuum pump running until it all pulls down into the cutout. But it'll allow me to make a new one, and we'll have a fresh window for the radio. And I think I did one. I know I've made the dial faces or the glass before. I think I did a video. It's been so long. What I want to do right now is Now let me clear some of this junk off the table. Alright. I'm not going to be able to film this because I'm going to be up jumping around in front of the camera trying to get all of these things done at the same time. But this is lifted to about this far in, and I can get all the way in with this syringe and inject glue all underneath here. And it's only back this far. It's only back about 3 inches. This is firmly attached. This corner right there needs some glue in it. I can inject in that. We're going to lay glue all along this edge. And the same thing all along this edge. This is going to get in here, be stuck in here. These clamps, I've got bolster plates to pull the ends in. Then after those are in, to keep this from sticking, should any glue get through, this will go in here with a backup bar that goes underneath here for the clamps, and this will get clamped down so that this ends up straight. And I'll put a couple more small clamps to pull this down. So it'll be pulled in from the ends with the long clamps, and I have some short clamps. I'll just grab this here and here, and we'll let that sit up. Now the top veneer has got the same problem, but that'll be after this is set up for 12 hours. I'll glue this all together, let it sit, and when that's done, we'll take it out of the frame and flip it over. I'll show you what it looks like all clamped up after I get the glue in there. How's that for a menagerie of clamps? We got everything clamped and bolster plates behind everything. There's a big plate underneath here holding the, making the bottom solid. Same thing over here. So we're going to let that sit overnight, let that glue set up, and we'll take it apart tomorrow and we'll pick up on the top of the veneer. Once that's all done, then we can work on getting the old finish off and putting some stain on it. And I'll see what I have left over for flocking. I don't think I have enough to do the inside of this. I might redo the inside if I have enough. We'll see. But we'll get that cleaned up. I'd like at least to get the turntable reflocked to clean that up. I'm not going to buy a cartridge for this. The next owner, if he wants it, can do it, but the turntable will be in operational condition at that point. You know, it's cleaned up, the motor's lubricated and serviced. New rubber grommets. It's got new rubber grommets. Everything's turning nice and free. This is a nice motor. It's got big felt wicks for oiling. Back when they built them right, today whatever's in the oilzite bushing is what you get, but that has big felt wicks that you can oil up, and it, you know, keeps the bushings oiled for years. There's virtually no play in that motor shaft. For as old as this thing is, it's amazing. It's tight as can be. Okay, we're gonna let this set up, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Okay, off camera we've removed all the clamps. It's the next day, and the box is good and solid now, or the cover is good and solid. Everything's glued back together. Now I've got to deal with all the veneer that's lifted, and it's only lifted on this one side. The rest of it's very firmly attached all the way down. It's just this edge appears to have been wet at some point in time, and all the veneer is lifted here. There's a couple of little tiny pieces missing. I'll deal with that after everything's glued solidly down. We've got our syringe with, I believe this is a number 14 needle or 14 injection, and I'm just going to fill this with adhesive, and we're going to inject a copious amount underneath here. The deepest area is right there, and it still reaches the bottom, so we'll inject a bunch of adhesive. Then we'll lay down some cling wrap on top so that the bolster plate doesn't adhere, and I've got this heavy 1/2 inch thick aluminum plate that I'll clamp on here and that'll give me a nice flat surface. You know, this guarantees I'm going to have a flat glued or a flat surface on the veneer after the glue sets. And we've got a piece of wood to go up inside for the clamp to bear against, so that I can really lay some pressure on this with the two big C clamps here. And after that sets up overnight, I'll be able to remove the finish and do, you know, restain this. I will touch these up, of course, and there's one little chunk here missing in the wood. We'll fill that with stain it, fill it, stain it, and carry on from there. But that's the process. We'll inject the glue, and the reason this is taped, it's going to be squeezing glue out, and I don't want it to dribble down into all of this woodwork and have to deal with cleaning that up. So whatever squeezes out, all I'll have to do when it's set up is trim the edge, and I won't have to deal with it all being stuck down the face here. So that's the process. We're going to inject the glue, and maybe I'll give you a quick shot of it after the glue's injected and you can see the glue running down. I'll throw some paper down here on the floor because I know it's going to drip out. But I want plenty of adhesive in there so that this is well and truly glued back in place. And that's it, clamped up. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of adhesive oozing out the front here. That's to be totally expected. We did have a few drips and dribbles. I cleaned them up. Plenty of clamping force to ensure that this stays nice and flat and pulls it down. Now, as much as you see coming out the front here, there's also adhesive hydraulically pushing itself out the back because I clamped it in the front more and then moved, you know, squeezed it back. I moved a couple of extra clamps and squeezed it back. So it's pushing the adhesive well underneath of the veneer and getting any places that may be close to coming loose back there as well as in here. Once the tape's removed, all of this adhesive you see squeezing out the front will be gone. I'll just have a little bit to clean up right at the edge of the veneer. And that's done easily with a good sharp wood chisel. You just push it along and it peels that little bit of adhesive right off the front. Done this many times. Now this also works well if you have a bubble in the center. It's going to be hard to see. Let's say, for example, this is veneer, and it's not, but I'm just using this. If you had an area in the center that was bubbled and it still adhered well around the edges, I drill from the back through the thickness of whatever's behind the veneer, making sure you don't break through, and inject the adhesive in the back, and then use a bolster plate and a lot of deep clamps. You have to be careful not to squeeze too hard. Do it slowly so that you don't blow out the veneer, you don't crack it. But the adhesive will find its way under the veneer, lifting any loose areas, and glue the veneer back down. Done that a number of times successfully. You just have to be careful. But we'll let that set up overnight. While that is setting up, I'm going to take the other part of the cabinet outside and start cleaning the old finish off of it. And I'll do the same to this tomorrow after the adhesive is set up. Now, we're not going to go crazy on this. We're going to sand it down a little bit, put some stain and some clear on it so that it looks decent. Again, this isn't a... This, I believe, somebody told me that the FS in the part number stood for farm service. And that kind of makes sense. As rural electrification began, you know, farmers would have wanted a radio and a phonograph, but, you know, they wouldn't have been able to afford those great big expensive excuse me, they wouldn't have been able to afford the big expensive console sets like the Midwest radio that we restored recently. They would have just wanted some small record player, turntable to play some 78s, and an AM radio to listen to. So this would have been an excellent, inexpensive set for the farmer. And as I heard in a couple of the comments, they said, wow, that thing sounds pretty good now that you've cleaned it up. And that's before that little 4-inch speaker's even in the cabinet. I'm expecting it to sound even better once this thing's assembled. But we'll pick this up after I've stripped the finish off. My method's going to be my standby of lacquer thinner and a rag and some furniture scrapers. I find it a lot quicker, easier, and less messy than using the strippers that are available today. Okay, that's where we're going to head. I started to take this thing outside, and the more I looked at it, the more I said, this thing has hardly any finish on it. Let's see what a dual action orbital sander DA will do on it. It took me less time to sand this thing down and get all the finish off than it would have taken me to haul all the materials outside to clean it, or to strip it. It just cleaned up in 10-15 minutes. I was done. I got in here with a 1/4-inch round aluminum dowel wrapped in 220. I wrapped 220 sandpaper around it to get into those. For some reason this one stained up darker than the others. I'm not sure why. And that and the top one. But at any rate, I'll give this a second coat of stain. And while I was at it, I went ahead and just stained the existing flocking. Now, I do have enough flocking to redo it in a lighter color. If I don't like it later, I can just mask everything off, put some adhesive down, and reflock that area. But the stain made it look pretty decent. Again, I'm not going to go to heroics with this thing. The hardest part's going to be recreating the lettering for down here, but after watching David Tipton do it, I think I've got a method. I've got one of the cutters. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with a water slide decal or try to cut the letters out. But another coat of stain and some clear on here, and I think this thing will be fine for what it is. We'll do the same thing to the cover after all the glue is set up on that top veneer and we've filled all the holes and sanded everything. But this went a lot faster than I thought it would. And I'm going to go upstairs, have some lunch, let this coat of stain soak in, and when I come down I'll give it a second one just to try to even it up a little bit. I did treat it with it's a stain preparation made by Minwax. You put it on for soft woods. This appears to be made out of pine. It is extremely soft wood. So I gave it a prep before I stained it, and it still didn't soak in evenly. But again, I'm not going to go to heroics. I'll give this a second coat, see if I can darken up some of the lighter areas, and we're going to just clear it. And I'll repaint the black band that was down here. That was, as it came from the factory, black down there, so we'll do that. And slide the chassis back in it and call this one done. Okay. While I'm waiting for the stain to dry so that I can put some clear on it and then move on to the black, I've put the plastic down here. Now this is thermo forming plastic that I bought on the internet. It comes with a blue cover sheet on it, and I've tried it both with and without the cover sheet, and I found this tends to leave little swirly marks on the plastic if I leave it on there, so I peel it off. Now you have to be absolutely fastidious about making sure there is not a speck of dust on this glass or on the plastic when you lay it on there. Now I've got compressed air down here, but go over it with a magnifying I have a magnifying headband. Any little particle of dust on there, you're going to have what looks like a mountain after this stuff is pulled down on the glass. This is capped on tape. You can buy that on the internet as well. The vacuum pumps, I've got a bunch of vacuum pumps that I got when the company I was working for shut down. So, but they can be had. Sometimes I find them at the flea market for, $15, $20. They're very expensive if you buy them new. And the heating plant's coming on. All right, I can't work here and do all the heating. I'm going to be using 2 heat guns to try to get the plastic warm quickly so it'll draw down in when I turn the vacuum on. But with the racket in the background, the heating plant just came on for the hot water. So I'm just going to shut the camera off. All I'm going to be doing is running with the vacuum on and trying to keep this evenly heated. Something just happened. The thing went dark. I don't know how much of this got recorded. When I saw that, I stopped. I didn't finish pulling it down over here. But you can see it started to make the right shape. It's a matter of getting the heat right, and it comes with practice. But I'm dancing all around this thing while I'm doing it, trying to keep, trying not to overheat it while getting it warm enough to draw down in, and I dragged the nose of one of the heat guns right there and destroyed this one. So we'll throw this one away and do it again. I'll just stick a new piece down. Again, I'll go through, make sure the glass is clean. I'll tape down my new piece of plastic. That's a disappointment, but we almost had it. It certainly turned out looking better. Let me get the old one here. Yeah. There's the old one, all yellowed. I don't know how evident it is in the camera, but this would have been, a big improvement. And this one had a big gouge in it on the back side. I don't know how that got in there. But I wrecked that one. We'll just start over and do it again. Well, like they say, third time's a charm. Took me 3 tries this time, but we got one that looks pretty good. It'll go on there and look a whole lot better than that ugly one that was on there. This was my second try, and I overheated it. And when you overheat it, you get this unevenness. I don't know if it's visible in the camera. I hadn't done one of these in a couple of years. If you do them on a regular basis, you get the feel for it. It's probably like glass blowing. If you took a glass blower away from the shop for a couple of years, it'd probably take them a couple tries to get back in the swing of things. When I was doing these all the time, it was second nature, but this one will do. It's a lot better than what was on there. There's one little overheated spot over here, but it's not over the main dial area. And once it's in the cabinet, I don't even think it'll be visible. I'm happy with that one. We'll get back to the cabinet. I think I can probably put some clear on it at this point. It's been sitting for a while. Do some clear, then shoot the black around the base. Tomorrow, when the glue is all dried on the lid, I'll sand that down and stain and lacquer that. Put this back together. We've pulled all the clamps off and peeled the tape off, and you can see we've got a nice clean surface here. And there's only a couple of places actually. There's hardly any adhesive here that I have to remove, but I've got a nice sharp putty knife here. And, oh, there's a little chunk. That pretty much cleaned it up. The glue is just soft enough that a good sharp, or I could use this wood chisel that I recently sharpened. I've got a sharpening kit. What a difference, boy. It's just peeling right off. Gotta be careful. Oh, that's going too deep. That was a little too sharp. Peel off. You can see there's a little bit of glue's come up through the cracks. That'll sand off. Peel off. How much of this are we seeing? Okay. Yeah, all of this excess glue will come off, and then we'll let it harden for a little bit and sand the rest of it. You can see where there's like almost an algae has grown on the finish where this edge is wet. Evidently this was wet for a while. And this is the same edge inside that had lifted. But it's all good and solid now. Yeah. And we'll be able to put a finish on that, replace that little Emerson logo that's on there, and put this back together. get this back on the radio. Okay, you don't want to watch me sanding, but get this done. Alrighty, we've taken this as far as we're going to take it. We've got the Emerson logo back on here, and we have the radio and volume and selector decals on there. Now these are just about the same level that the originals were that I took off when I sanded it. They weren't bright and gold, they were very subdued. So I went ahead and just did the same thing to replace them. And we've got the new dial face in here, or the glass in here, and we cast a knob. We had a missing knob, if you remember, so we copied one of these and just cast another one. There was a combination of a black one and a brown one, so I made them all black. This one's got a little white stripe that shows the different positions for radio and tone, and it has bass and bass over here. And let's see what we've got on radio. Whoop. Oh. Well, Donald used to run the country. The subdivision tried to build a wall. He made a few of his people wealthy. Oh, he don't care about the rest at all. He's got convictions, he did the nasty and undermined the Constitution. He's an oppressor of civil liberties, megalomaniac Republican. Kamala, give me hope. Kamala for the election. Give me hope. Kamala, hope for beating Donald Trump. You see, she's safer than him with money. She'll try to regulate the sale of guns. She's bringing measures that offer hope, not fear, access to healthcare and abortion. We know the street with the neighbor's borders. We're trying to change it immigration. Don't want a president of the USA who's dangerous to everyone. Oh, give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala, give me hope, Kamala for the election. Let's see what the phonograph works like, shall we? Give me a second to go find the record. We should have a catchy little tune here. Sounds like a Looney Tunes cartoon. I don't know why there seems to be so much wow in the turntable. That thing's got enough torque to pull a Buick out of a mud hole. It's not dragging on the platter. I think it's just the way these were recorded. So there we have it. I think that pretty much wraps up this series. I've got one more video to release before I leave for Thailand. And I was going to have this one, when this one was released, I was going to release that one, but I figured, what the heck, I got time to get one more out. But I've got a video to release after this that I think you'll find interesting, with an unusual piece of test equipment. And hopefully we'll be back next spring and get some more stuff out. I'll try to get a couple of quick videos out from Thailand, but they'll be more about travel than anything. Take care, be well, see you soon.